Today, we're going to work through an IELTS reading practice test together. First, I'll give you some tips. Then, you'll have the chance to answer the questions. And finally, I'll explain the answers to you. Let's jump straight into our first reading task, matching information. Here it is. The instructions for the task are at the top. They say, the text has 6 paragraphs A to F. Which paragraph contains the following information? Note what it says next. You may use any letter more than once. This means that more than one of the questions might match the same paragraph. On the right is the set of questions presented in a table with a button to click for the matching paragraph. The columns at the top of the box are labeled from A to F, matching the letter labeling of each paragraph. For these questions, you're being asked to match information from the questions to the paragraphs in the passage. Sometimes, not every paragraph will be needed in your answers, and some paragraphs might be covered more than once. Here are some tips for this question type. First, you need to read the question wording carefully. The questions will often include words that tell you what kind of information to look for. You should also think of synonyms for the key words in the questions. The wording in the questions will often be a paraphrase of the wording in the reading passage, so synonyms will help you to locate the corresponding information quickly. Next, you should scan each paragraph to find specific details or key words that match the questions. Then read in detail to make sure the information matches. So, are you ready to have a go yourself? For this practice, you should allow around 90 seconds per question, so set a timer for 9 minutes and pause this video now to answer questions 1 to 6. If you want, you can download the reading passages and tasks as a PDF from the description or chat below. You now have 10 seconds to pause the video before we look at the answers. Ready? Start now. Okay, well done. You've just finished the matching information questions. Let's take a look at the answers. Question 1 asks to find an explanation of why workers are concerned about how quickly automation is changing work environments. Remember that it helps to look for synonyms or paraphrasing, that is, saying the same thing in a different way. For this question, the key words here are workers, concerned, and quickly. The correct answer is paragraph C. Look at this sentence. It says, many worry that the pace of automation today outstrips society's ability to adapt. Worry is a synonym for concerned, and pace relates to the speed. This paragraph also says, automation is advancing at such a rapid rate that retaining efforts may not be sufficient to keep up. And rapid rate is another way of saying quickly. So in this example, the information matches even though the key words were paraphrased. Question 2 asks to find an example of automation being used in more ways than just traditional manual work. The correct answer is paragraph A. The paragraph mentions automation being used in other ways. The paragraph refers to chatbots and use in creative fields. It also says automation is no longer limited to repetitive manual tasks, but is expanding. Notice how each question tells you what kind of information to look for. Question 1 was an explanation. Question 2 was an example. And now question 3 asks for a comparison of how different groups describe automation. So we're looking for somewhere that mentions one group being compared against another group. We need to find a paragraph that compares at least 2 groups. So the correct answer for this question is paragraph D. The paragraph presents a contrast between how the media is shaping public perception with what companies are saying about automation. In this example, the words comparison and contrast were important keywords that linked the question to the answer. Question 4 asks for a reason why automation continues to be a topic that people disagree about. The focus is on disagreement. The correct answer is paragraph B. Did you notice any words that helped signpost a difference of ideas? The words despite and while are contrast signal words. They show there's a difference, contradiction, or opposing idea. Paragraph B says, despite these advancements, automation remains a contentious issue. It goes on to give a reason why this is the case, saying, many workers fear that increased reliance on machines and software will lead to widespread unemployment, and also that concerns persist about its long-term impact on employment rates. Next, question 5 asks you to find a suggestion for how businesses can directly help workers adapt to automation. Some key words here include suggestion, businesses, workers, and adapt. The answer to this question is paragraph E. It says, businesses must therefore take proactive steps to ensure that automation is integrated in a way that benefits workers rather than simply displacing them. The focus here is on businesses helping workers to adapt. The last question in this section asks, which paragraph contains a mention of how automation has affected jobs in different types of work? So we're looking for a mention. The answer is in paragraph A. Did you find some of the keyword synonyms? Look at the first sentence. It says, automation has transformed industries. This wording has a similar meaning to the words affected and different types of work used in the question. The paragraph mentions changes to different types of work, including manufacturing using robotic systems, customer service using chatbots, and creative fields for data analysis, content generation, and design. Did you notice that this is the second question that has paragraph A as the answer? We know this is allowed because the instructions say you may use any letter more than once. So, how did you find matching information? Let me know in the comments, was this task easy or did you find it challenging? And remember, head to e2language.com for more matching information, practice questions, and more. Okay, on to the next IELTS reading question type, multiple choice. There are two different kinds of multiple choice questions in the IELTS reading test, single answer or multiple answers, but for this question, you have to select only one correct answer from the 4 options. So here it is. The instructions are short and say, questions 7 to 9, choose the correct answer. In this example, we see question 7 is expanded and it has 4 answer options. Beside each option is a circle you can click to select your answer choice. With this type of multiple choice question, there is only one correct answer. You need to scan for specific information and then read in detail to select the correct answer. Here are some tips to tackle this question type. First, quickly read the question and read the answer options so that you know what information to look for in the reading passage. Then, use keywords in the question and answer options to locate your answer. The answer options might all look correct because the test writers try to include distracting information. So watch out for some of the common types of distractors. The answers will be in order, meaning that if you found an answer in paragraph C in the first question, you know the next answers for the other questions must come from paragraph C or later paragraphs. Remember that you need to focus on meaning so that you know which answer option is correct. Also, as you work through the 4 options, you should try to eliminate the incorrect options to help you narrow down the correct answer. Now it's time for you to have a go. For this task, I recommend you set a timer for 4.5 minutes. And remember, you can download the reading passages and tasks as a PDF from the description or chat below. I'll now give you 10 seconds to pause the video before we look at the answers. Ready? Start now. Okay, well done. That's all the multiple choice questions finished. Let's take a look at the answers. Question 7 asks, what does the passage suggest about how the media influences opinions on automation? The 4 answer options are about possible ways that media influences opinions on automation. So a key word here is media, and paragraph D is about media. This is a good place to look for the correct answer. For this question, the first option is the correct answer. It says, it often focuses on job losses, which increases public concern. Did you find this information in paragraph D? It's here where it says, news headlines frequently highlight the potential job losses. But let's look at why the other options are incorrect. The second option says, it mostly reports on the benefits of automation, making people support it. But this is not correct. The paragraph says that it's companies, not the media, that focus on benefits. The third option says the media provides only facts, letting people decide for themselves. But this is also incorrect because the passage describes a divide in narratives about how automation is presented. This shows the media is not just reporting the facts. And the final option is also incorrect because it says it does not talk about automation very often, whereas the passage mentions that news headlines frequently highlight potential job losses caused by automation. So even though it might look like a few of the options could be correct, there's only one correct answer. You can see that reading the question and the options carefully is very important. Question 8 asks, according to the passage, what is one way businesses can reduce workers' fears about automation? The key words here are businesses, reduce, and workers' fears. The answer options list 4 ways this might happen. This question focuses on businesses and workers, and that information appears in paragraph E. Let's go through the options to eliminate the incorrect ones and confirm the correct answer. So the first option says, businesses can help by delaying automation. However, the passage says nothing about delaying automation. It only mentions helping workers adjust by taking steps to ensure automation is integrated. So this option is not correct. The second option suggests businesses could reduce workers' fears by replacing human workers only when necessary, but this is not mentioned in the passage at all. So it's also incorrect. The third option says businesses can reduce workers' fears by helping employees learn new skills so they can work with machines. This is mentioned here where it talks about upskilling programs and also where it says that when businesses offer workers training programs, workers are more likely to accept automation. This is the correct answer. The final option says businesses can reduce workers' fears by giving extra pay to employees who lose their jobs. But this is not correct because the passage does not mention anything about extra pay. So for this question, you need to use your paraphrasing skills to recognize how ideas in the passage are expressed differently in the answer choices. That means you need to identify synonyms and reworded phrases while making sure the meaning stays the same. There's one more question in this section. Because we already know that questions appear in the order of where the answers come from in the passage, we know that the answer to question 9 must be found in either paragraph E or F. Question 9 asks, what is the passage's suggestion about the future of automation? The key words here are future and automation. The answer options list 4 possible future situations. The first option says, automation should be stopped before it causes too much harm. The passage talks about finding ways to manage automation properly. In paragraph E, it mentions steps to ensure automation is integrated, and paragraph F mentions finding ways to integrate it responsibly and says the challenge lies not in stopping automation, but in shaping its impact. So even though there is mention of being cautious, this option is incorrect because it talks about not stopping automation. The second option says automation will eventually replace all human jobs. This is an example of information that is almost correct. The passage does refer a lot to jobs being replaced, but there's no mention about replacing all jobs. Here in paragraph F, the passage actually shows that not all jobs will be replaced by automation. It states that automation can enhance productivity and improve job quality rather than merely eliminating roles. So this option is incorrect. The third option says automation will mainly benefit businesses by cutting costs. The text states that businesses will benefit, but it also stresses the need to help workers. Paragraph E talks about ways that benefit workers, and paragraph F mentions how automation could improve job quality. This option is incorrect. So far, we've eliminated all three options, which tells us the final option should be the correct answer, but we still need to check the information and confirm this. The fourth option says, automation should be introduced in a way that benefits workers and businesses. Paragraphs E and F suggest that automation should be managed carefully so that it helps both workers and businesses. The last sentence in paragraph E makes this recommendation, as do the first two sentences in paragraph F. So this is the correct answer for this question. Great! You've now completed 9 questions in today's IELTS reading practice test. There's one more question type to go, and it's summary completion. Okay, looking at the instructions now, they say questions 10 to 13. Complete the summary. Write one word only from the text in each gap. These instructions are important because they tell us that each answer can only have one word and that this word must come from the passage. In some cases, you may be told to write no more than 2 words or one word and/or a number. So pay attention as this can vary. And you can see the summary here, and this one has 4 gaps that you need to complete. For summary completion questions, you're being tested on your ability to understand specific details and/or the main ideas in a part of the reading passage. Here are some tips for doing well with this question type. The first thing to do is read the instructions to find out how many words are allowed for each answer. Then, you should quickly skim the summary to get an idea of its general topic and overall meaning. Check the title as it can help you identify which part of the passage contains the answers. Also, make a note of any key words in the summary that might help you locate the information you need. As you skim the summary, try to think about or predict what word could go into the gap. You should also identify the word type that's needed in each gap. By this, I mean noun, adjective, verb, and so on. Often, but not always, the answers will be nouns. Okay, are you ready to try? I recommend you give yourself 7 minutes to answer these questions. And remember, you can download the reading passages and tasks as a PDF from the description or chat below. All right, you have 10 seconds to pause the video and have a go at the task before we look at the answers. Ready? Start now. Well done! You've now completed all the questions in this practice reading test. And remember, head to e2language.com for more IELTS reading practice tasks and so much more. Let's now go through all the answers for the summary completion task. So the summary is about the concerns employees have with automation. Did you find where this information comes in the passage? It's in paragraphs B and C. Look at the summary now. The title is Concerns About Automation, and the first gap appears in the first sentence, which reads, many employees worry that automation will cause higher rates of blank, especially in sectors where machines are replacing people. So this sentence is about work and concerns people have about losing their jobs. Look at this sentence in the passage in paragraph B. It says, many workers fear that increased reliance on machines and software will lead to widespread unemployment, particularly in industries where automation can fully replace human labor. The information is the same as what's in the summary. We need a word to come after rates of. The correct word from the passage is unemployment. Many employees worry that automation will cause higher rates of unemployment, especially in sectors where machines are replacing people. There were a couple of other possible answers from the passage that look like they might work in terms of the meaning here. One was in paragraph D, which is job losses, and the other in paragraph E, which is reduction in workforce. But neither of these fit this question because only one word is allowed. Being familiar with the phrase rates of unemployment also helped to confirm this as the right answer. So the next blank is in the sentence, some people feel they have very little blank over how automation is developing. So this sentence is about how people feel in relation to how automation is developing. And remember, this summary is titled Concerns about Automation. So from this information, we can work out that people are feeling they don't have enough of something in terms of this development. The answer is in paragraph C, where it mentions the perceived lack of control over automation's expansion. Some people feel they have very little control over how automation is developing, particularly as businesses continue to adopt new technologies. Notice how the word lack is paraphrased to very little. The meaning is the same, but the wording is different. The next sentence with a blank reads, a major issue is that blank is a technology which is developing so rapidly that workers struggle to adjust. We know from this sentence structure that the blank is about some kind of technology that is developing rapidly. Paragraph C talks about rapid development. It says, many worry that the pace of automation today outstrips society's ability to adapt. So the answer to question 12 is automation. The passage has other words that might look suitable, but they do not fit. The word machines in paragraph B, for example, might convey the correct meaning, but it doesn't fit. Machines is a technology is grammatically incorrect because machines is plural and does not fit with is. So checking not just meaning, but also whether your answer choice works grammatically is really important. Finally, the next sentence reads, unlike in the past, employees today often lack sufficient time to learn the additional blank they need before their jobs disappear. So this blank is about employees needing to learn something more. Did you find the answer? Here in paragraph C, the passage states, unlike previous industrial revolutions, where displaced workers had time to acquire new skills, automation is advancing at such a rapid rate that retraining efforts may not be sufficient to keep up. The correct answer here is skills. Employees today often lack sufficient time to learn the additional skills they need before their jobs disappear. The words learn and skills naturally fit together, so these words collocate correctly. The words retraining efforts might seem like it could fit in the summary sentence, but remember that only one word can be used for the answer. Also, the summary specifically talks about what workers need and not the method used to obtain it. So for summary completion, make sure you understand the summary before looking for the words. Check that the word or words you choose fit into the blanks, both in terms of meaning and grammar. And don't forget to check your answers and check your spelling. Here are all the answers for this reading practice test. How many did you get correct? Let me know in the comments. If you got all of them correct, you could be well on track to getting a high score on test day. If not, I recommend you head to e2language.com. Get started today for free or upgrade to one of our premium test prep courses and get access to heaps of practice tests, assessments, live classes, video lessons, and full mock tests with feedback. So that's it. We've completed an IELTS reading practice test. See you next time.